Good evening, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held December 7th, 2021 at 6 p.m. at the Council Chambers building. If we could have our clerk please take the roll.
Councilmember Henry?
Here.
Councilmember Curott?
Present.
Councilmember Matthews?
Here.
Councilmember Nairn? Here. Councilmember Wilden?
Here.
Vice Mayor Halse?
Here.
Mayor Alinsky.
Here, thank you. And before we stand for the pledge, just want to acknowledge the 80th anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack. And I know we have a lot of veterans that serve on our council as well as work for the city of Cottonwood and just want to, and live, of course, in our community and serve our community. Just want to take a minute to thank you for your service and dedication. So please stand now and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My grandfather served on Arizona. Did he?
Turnbull, that's
Survived. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Next is a brief summary of current events by the Mayor, City Council, and/or City Manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. And Council, before we start, I want to remind everyone to please push the button to talk on our mics. And we have Councilmember Nairn on phone right now, so let's all try to do our best to speak clearly into the mics so that she doesn't get too big a migraine. All right, so Council, do we have anything to share this evening?
I don't know if any of the other council members are going to update on Saturday's event or events, but the first Saturday in December is always a fun one for the City of Cottonwood, or at least the community. We have the Chamber of Commerce parade, and I did want to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. They did a very nice job this year of organizing and pulling off the 67th annual Cottonwood Christmas Parade, and I think most of our mayor and most of our council members were actually in the parade and participated. It was great weather for the parade. And then also thank you to the Old Town Association for another successful chocolate walk. I surely enjoyed it, and I'm working my way through the bag of chocolates as we speak. And then also, I know a couple I saw, Councilmember Curott and the mayor, of course, were out, and if I missed anybody else, for the annual Cottonwood Christmas tree lighting this year as well. So it was very fun and eventful weekend again this year.
Thank you. Any other council members?
The turnout was phenomenal, I thought. It was far more people than I've ever seen, and I've been here for a number of years. But turnout was great, so it was fun to be in the parade.
And the weather held out. The weather was perfect, yeah. All right, any other council members? No, okay. I know that Councilmember Nairn was at the Friends of the Verde River 10-year anniversary. I was there as well with Manager Corbin. Our manager got recognized as being I forget exactly what the award was. You'll have to go into more detail on it, but it was great to see him there get recognized. He, of course, gave all credit back to council, but I do appreciate that the Friends at least knows that Cottonwood is doing all it can to support that organization. And attended with Councilmember Matthews, or Henry, excuse me, you were there this afternoon for the groundbreaking ceremony at the Inspiration at Cottonwood. Our manager, of course, was there too, so we got to shovel a little dirt and kick that project off. We're all extremely excited to see that come out of the ground, and they seem like they have an extremely talented, capable team to make those apartments come out of the ground, so can't happen fast enough. That's it.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Very excited about the groundbreaking today. 192 units coming to our community. Long time in the making. I hear from business community members, as you guys do, often about the lack of affordable housing. So it's nice to actually have additional units going into our community. So very excited. So the update, our Letters to Santa program is ongoing, and letters can be dropped off at the Magic mailbox located inside the Recreation Center. In addition, at our rec center, we have the Project Angel Tree is underway. Working with the Cottonwood Oak Creek School District to identify angels in our community who may need a little support during the holiday season. We started the project with a total of 73 tags and currently only have 10 remaining. If you or anybody wants to help spread the holiday cheer, swing by the rec center and grab an angel tag while they last. Breakfast with Santa will be held Saturday, December 18th from 8 to 10 a.m. at the Recreation Center. This event is free to the public thanks to the $500 sponsorship we received, which I believe was from Walmart, so thank you, Walmart. We'll serve pancakes, sausages, bananas, juice, water, and decorate your hot chocolate bar. Kids and their families are welcome to come to the Recreation Center where they'll have gymnasium decorated and a spot to take pictures with Santa. We'll have a station to write letters to Santa to help that program as well. And then they'll decorate each table, and each kid will have an interactive placemat where they can draw in color. And we're actually looking for volunteers from council if they want to come flip pancakes that day. So if you want to cook, let me know and serve the folks there that day. Please let us know, and we'll put you on the list. And then more stuff going on at our rec center. So join us for a fun-filled evening at the Cottonwood Recreation Center as we welcome 2022 to Cottonwood. Boy, I can't wait for that to get here. The event will take place December 31st from 6 to 10 p.m. at the Cottonwood Recreation Center, and it is free, open to the public. The community is invited to come and enjoy holiday movies, games, bounce house, food, and more. The balloon drop will take place at 10 p.m. as we ring in the new year. That's for us old folks who need to get home and go to bed. Please contact the Parks and Recreation Department at 639-3200 for more information. And then I wanted to let council know and the community know that we met with the Cottonwood Hoteler Coalition, a group that was formed with the help of Local First, again, caring about rural Arizona. We met with them, and I think you'll see some great output from that, some additional input provided to staff and direction and hopes for the future. And so stand by for that. But I want to let council know that staff did meet with them. And then I also wanted to make sure that council knew that I attended the Yavapai Community College Master Plan Forum, and I'll send an email with the actual link, and we'll share their link on our website. But the Yavapai College is in the middle of the beginning stages of their 10-year master plan update, mostly concentrated on facilities, but the facilities have to support programming, and so they really would look forward to having input from our community. So, and that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Corbin. Let's move on then to call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action, and comments are limited to a 3-minute time period. So if there's anyone here this evening that would like to address the council, there's some yellow forms in the back. If you could please fill that out, and we'll get you up here so you can address your council. And first up this evening, we have Miss Donna O'Daniel. And if we could grab that mic for her, that'd be great. Thank you, Ron.
Oops, we can do it. How about that?
Thank you, perfect. Thank you so much. Mayor Alinsky, city councilors, and city manager. Dr. Fauci is the most highly paid federal government employee at $417,608 per year. But Fauci is flawed. On November 29, when challenged about the scientific evidence for COVID vaccines, he defensively stated, quote, "I am science," close quote. I, Donna O'Daniel, earned a master's degree in biological sciences from the University of Texas and have worked with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Nature Conservancy, and the Peregrine Fund. During my career, I understand real science and know that no real scientist would ever make such an arrogant, outrageous statement as Fauci did. In addition, Fauci has demonstrated that he has a problem with truth. He lied under oath to Congress, denying that his agency, which is a government agency, subsidized research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China, where the bat lady, Shi Zhenli, engaged in gain-of-function research. She combined genetic information from different coronaviruses that only infect animals to create novel artificial viruses able to infect human beings. Viruses that in nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of infecting humans. Enter COVID-19. For several years, many scientists, including molecular biologist Dr. Richard Ebright of Rutgers University, were concerned about the potential dangers of these experiments in Wuhan. The funding of gain-of-function research in a Chinese communist lab has far-reaching ramifications. The Chinese Communist People's Liberation Army, PLA, is tightly linked to the Wuhan lab. The PLA wants to use enhanced viruses as bioweapons, and in a paper has envisioned a, quote, new era of genetic weapons, close quote. Interestingly, in 2017, Dr. Fauci predicted a pandemic for President Trump during a speech at Georgetown University when he stated, quote, no doubt Donald J. Trump will be confronted with a surprise infectious disease outbreak during his presidency, close quote. My sister's husband, Jim, was vaccinated against COVID-19 earlier this year. Nonetheless, last month he came down with COVID-19, spent 3 weeks in the hospital, went home for a few days, but is now back in the hospital fighting for his life. This plandemic is a crime against humanity, and the perpetrators need to pay. Please read the 2 articles you've received for truthful information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Daniel. And next up, we have Mr. Barry Jones. Evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council persons. By definition, government is force, whether by dictatorship or by the consent of the governed. Both forms of government can be used to oppress and destroy people's God-given rights. Our founding fathers labored to produce a system which protected those rights and limited government power, especially of the federal or central government. Perhaps the most salient statement of their belief in the rights of the people is in the direct Declaration of Independence, which stated, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." The U.S. Constitution and federal law state that any attempts to violate those rights are unlawful. Many are willing to assert tyrannical authority under the guise of so-called national emergencies, and further to have these emergencies continue indefinitely. These same people are also willing to trample the people's fundamental rights, especially of the portion of the electorate who oppose them. And now they have found accomplices and allies in the so-called legacy media and big tech, who are cooperating with the approved narrative openly and with no shame. It isn't hard to discern where this is going. James Madison stated in Federalist Number 45, "The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. The powers delegated to the national government in Articles 1 through 3 are very limited in scope. Today, the federal government has morphed from those limitations to what Jefferson ominously warned against when he stated, 'Congress has not unlimited powers, but only those specifically enumerated.' To take a single step beyond the boundaries drawn around the powers of Congress is to take possession of power not longer susceptible of any definition. Time is running out for America. If we do not soon return to the U.S. Constitution with its checks and balances, a tyranny of the elite will swiftly become a reality. And in our own community, we will lose healthcare workers when we can least afford to do so."
Thank you, Mr. Jones. And next, we have Ms. Lynn Howard.
My name is Lynn Howard, and I've lived in Pine Shadows for about 4 years. Honorable Mayor Elinsky, esteemed council members, and interested parties. A little background. On this day, Pearl Harbor Day, My father, a 26-year-old soldier, witnessed the horror and destruction of the Japanese surprise attack. I can testify that his 3 tours left him crippled, along with countless other warriors with PTSD. There was very little knowledge of how to treat this physical and mental disorder when he was discharged with a peptic ulcer in 1944 and died so early at an age of 57. Of course, I'm very grateful he survived December 7th, or I would not be here today. So, why am I here? This time, this place, addressing the leaders of Cottonwood, Arizona. But I digress a little more. 2 days ago, I watched the 2006 movie Amazing Grace, starring Albert Finney, if you want to find it. It's a true story of how few dedicated people, after educating those that directly benefited from human suffering, got the law passed in 1833 to abolish the inhumane slave trade in England. Cottonwood citizens keep getting uninvited triggers, just like William Wilberforce, that's the man who got the law passed, who reluctantly devoted over 20 years for that important trade charge and total evolution of an entire culture for the better. I have no real desire to stand here today. It was certainly not my retirement plan to become involved in small but growing town politics. However, life experiences condition me to pay attention to what is really happening and whom it serves. Reluctant but determined, we will educate those currently unaware of the reckless development of a town whose citizens are loudly voicing major concerns, and educate specifically how to discourage the rubber stamp approvals of progress and that seek to destroy the quality of life in Cottonwood. Even Mr. Wilberforce's opponents who joined him in his cause, they began to understand that the changes that needed to be necessary to do what was most important, which is do what people they serve want. Have the courage not to serve just a few in power or those who benefit financially or the self-determined elite. Maybe not, he had petition and he rolled it out in Parliament. I don't know that I'll do that because it had 350,000 signatures on it. However, a growing group will simply continue to personally contact citizens and voters so they understand the long-term ramifications of non-represented decisions being made. Those uninformed and careless, I'll just go along, important decisions affect the quality of life of many currently silent citizens. Final paragraph, I got to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for bravely choosing to do the right thing for the right reason in your pivotal elected position, and even if it means being a lone vote. But that will just be for a little while because you will eventually be supported by others so that we can make changes in Cottonwood so that Cottonwood is an example of a better city, not a city generating many future problems. Please wake up as individual council members and investigate the many options to ensure the quality, primarily involving the airport.
Ms. Howard,
Yes.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
And it's encouraging to see self-regular evaluations being made.
Next up, we have, and I'm going to mispronounce your last name, and I apologize. It's Miss Gloria Bratelin.
Good evening, Honorable Council. My name is Gloria Bratlin, and I live very close proximity to us here. And my issue is the noise specifically put out by Foljo's Brothers and the Belfry. There's the resolution here, which has been in effect for at least a decade, and I'm sorry if this issue's already been resolved because I've been pursuing it for the last year at least, since October 31st of 2020. I tried to write a speech. I'm not good at that, so I'm just winging it. I walked up the street the other day, and there's lots of businesses that have live entertainment, but they don't seem to need to do it to the whole neighborhood. On several occasions where I'm in close proximity, it's pounding and electric guitars, and it's really super unpleasant. And I thought I'll handle it on a neighborly basis and go over and talk to them. And nothing came of that. So I've called the police a bunch of times. Sometimes they come and say, quiet down, and they will for a couple of weeks. They've been quiet for a couple of weeks now, but I don't know if it's been taken care of because Commander Braxton, I talked to him, and he was going to take care of it, and then Sergeant Cults, and then it went to another one. But so if it's already taken care of, I apologize. But I'd like to reinforce that it's awful. I work in a store down here also, and one day I was walking the lady to her car because she needed help carrying things, and boom, and she said, "What was that? Why is it so loud?" And I didn't have an answer for her. They're selfish, I thought. I'm acquainted with a lady who works at, or manages the Thai restaurant, and she says she also gets it. She likes to have people dine on her porch, and they have to hear it whether they want to or not. And it's like cover music of Hotel California and things like this and I've heard them play their music quietly, and I can hear it, and it's livable. But when they've got their amps on full, it's really unpleasant for me and for anybody else who doesn't want to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you for being here this evening. And last but not least, and again, if there's anyone else that would like to address us, there's more forms back there. We have Justin Steele. Style. Man, I'm just not doing a great job.
I've never been to a council meeting. I live in Old Town right here, so I'm going to just try and get right to the point. My mom lives here. I visit. I just had my first kid. I'm 37. I've never voted in my life because I don't believe change happens, okay? That's not to address you guys. What I'm saying is I found in the CARES Act there's something called Employee Retention Tax Credit. I'm already processing it in other cities and states currently. The bottom line is I know the entire city of Cottonwood and Sedona is all qualified. I'm not here to sell anybody because I run these ads myself on Facebook now in Tucson, San Diego, Las Vegas, San Francisco, multiple cities. I don't care what you guys do with it because I'm going to do it on my own anyways, but it's up to $33,000 per W-2 employee that was lost in 2020, okay? All I'm really wanting to accomplish is basically Cottonwood processes that, period. Whether it's through me or how it's done, I don't care. I do know every CPA because I've done extensive research since I've umbrellaed it into my business model. Everyone wants 20% to 10% of the total check. I don't do it that way. They get all their check outside of cost up from CPAs. So what I would like to be able to accomplish, and I'm doing it on my own anyways, is educate owners here, new owners, because it's been about 10 months since I've been here. All the bars now have new owners because they went broke, I know. And all I'm looking for them to be able to do is those owners or new owners to get those checks so that it reinvigorates money into the community, because I know everyone's broke right now because everyone's telling me how broke they are. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is I didn't even know this meeting was going on. I was just going for a walk for my mom's. I personally am going back to Facebook because I worked there in 2013. If anybody has any true interest in Cottonwood being as developed as Phoenix from a monetary standpoint outside of the population, it's something I can significantly influence because I'm looking to take their contract and bring it right here. Facebook's. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Style. Appreciate that.
Take my contract.
All right. That's it then for call to the public. We're going to move on then to approval of the minutes of the work session November 9th, 2021 and regular meeting of November 16, 2021.
I move to approve the minutes of the November 9 and November 16, 2021 meetings.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Henry made the motion and Councilmember Wilden seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. We roll then into unfinished business. One item this evening, it's procurement policy waiver and sole source purchase request to purchase the Compstat officer productivity and community dashboard modules for the Spillman public safety software application. Evening.
Hi, Mayor, City Council, John Carter, Information Technology Director. Just to remind everyone, this is the purchase of 3 Spillman 911 dashboard modules that are approved in the current budget. It's coming to council, of course, because it's a sole source and above $50,000. Council last time wanted to know a few things. 2 of the things we will address tonight, which is we're going to have a demonstration done by the folks at Spillman. We'll do that in just a minute. And you wanted to know other agencies that did have this. So Commander Braxton and I talked to a few of the agencies, and we will bring that up now. I'll go ahead and call Garth up, and you can speak to the impression you got from those folks. And then we'll get to the presentation.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Since the last meeting, as Mr. Carter mentioned, we did have an opportunity to speak to several agencies. Most notably, the closest and most comparable size cities are Sedona and Camp Verde. We also spoke with the City of Yuma and the Arizona Department of Transportation. And in our conversations with them, they had very positive things to say about the suite of products that we are proposing. Most notably, they just gave additional insight to the data that the police department is already collecting in terms of it being more user-friendly to extrapolate that data and put it into actionable information that we could better direct our police resources towards. So it was very beneficial even to reach out to them to get that additional perspective, which is what council had asked for. And in our conversations, I'm not aware of any negative commentary that came as a result of those conversations. So.
So now we'll have a presentation done by the Spillman folks. It's Mr. Billy Duncan and Rich Hendricks.
Yeah. Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for your time. I'm Billy Duncan with the Motorola Spillman team, and as Commander and Mr. Carter said, we're going to overview the Compstat suite of dashboard products to you this evening. Doing the presentation is Chief Rich Hendricks. Chief Hendricks is a retired chief from the city of Logan, Utah. In his retirement, he's been busy instructing for the Department of Justice and doing consulting work for a number of agencies throughout the country and several here in the state of Arizona. I'm going to turn this over to Chief Hendricks and let him overview the product for you guys. If you have any questions, let us know and we'll get those resolved for you. So thank you, and Chief Hendricks.
Can you increase the volume, John? Can you increase the volume? It's hard to hear him. Can he speak a little louder? It's real hard to hear him.
Okay, is it working now?
We're having a hard time hearing you, Mr. Hendricks. There's a lot of feedback.
I'm getting some serious echo here also.
See if you have your telephone on it as well as your computer speakers.
John, do you think this is on our end or their end?
Yes, sir, that's good.
Connection time, sorry for the technical difficulties. What you're looking at is the Compstat dashboard. And our entire philosophy is that we want to enhance the value of the money you're already spending for your records management system. We understand that police department pours mountains of data into the system, but it's too cumbersome to get the information back out to assist the managers and the executives in making strategic decisions. So our goal is to provide user-friendly displays for the sergeants and lieutenants and the other executives within the police department so that they have more knowledge as they go through their daily routine of roll calls and watch meetings and making assignments, making everyone more efficient and more accountable. As you can see right off the bat, we set up categories of crimes that the agency wants to track. We have lots of windows of time that the agency can use. They can see the year-to-date, the month-to-date, the previous month, and then they can go through and customize as many as they want. One of my favorite ones is this times 30 days. So what you're seeing is the last 30 days. And you could do times 6 and see the 6 30-day periods, or 9 or 12 and see a whole year's worth. And then you can track the trends and the patterns and look at what needs your attention as a manager. As we go down here and look at the different kinds of things we can watch for, my favorite is to monitor the rate of crime. This is a calculation that sets a standard for how livable your community is. And it provides the police department with the information they need to address the parts of that livability that need their attention. So as we scroll down through, we can see that, like just a simple crime of theft, and we can click on theft and see what kind of theft complaints are the most prevalent. And we can create maps that can be distributed to the officers. We can understand the time of day, the day of the week. We can go to store and property owners and provide them information when these crimes are occurring on their property and when they're becoming a victim, and we can know how to stop that victimization and how to move people back into the areas where they're needed the most. If we just looked at theft of property from a motor vehicle, then we can see the list of the time of day when they're occurring, the days of the week that are having the most increase, and get a list of all the police reports that are included in that category. We can send that list to a pin map, we can send it to an Excel spreadsheet, and provide all this information that makes the officers accountable, that makes the managers accountable, and increases the value of the technology that you already have. We go back to the 30-day period. You can see all that same information, and then we can change it to see the trending, to see the mapping capabilities. These are all functions and capabilities that take so much more time without our software. We're going to free up hours of looking for data, doing annual and monthly reports, having access to data for public requests or elected official information. So all of this stuff is a part of the software suite that provides your managers with the information they need to be more effective and more efficient. As I go through it, you can see that we can do this with law reports. We can do it statute by statute. We can see the citations that are being written, not only for traffic, but for any other kind of non-custodial arrest. And all of this is done with the intent of putting more information and pulling more information out of the system, so that the time spent on patrol, the time spent investigating crimes is more effective and more efficient. We can go through and see traffic accident information. And right off the bat, when a sergeant clicks on this or a lieutenant clicks on this screen, they see the top 6 streets that have had the most accidents in the last 30 days. And now they know exactly where to make assignments. And then they can go even further into it, and they can see what's causing the accidents. They can see the time of day, the top streets again. And here's one of my favorite boxes. Every category includes the officer count. And so we see who's taking the most reports, who's answering the most calls, who's doing the most work. And nothing needs to be said, because when you put this up on a screen in a department meeting, in a shift meeting, everybody sees it. Now everybody knows. You can go back through and say, what caused accidents to spike on December 5th? Was it weather? Was it construction? What was going on? And if it's going to happen again next week or next month, what are we going to do different to keep that number down? Then we can go back and see all the causes. You can see in just a couple of clicks, if someone asks me how many DUI crashes we've got, it takes me 2 mouse clicks. This would take multiple reports to be run to extract this data. And there's all the DUI crashes for the last 30 days. There are several other codes relating to evidence. One of my favorite ones is our new code page. We can pick out certain kinds of crime or certain kinds of activity that we want to track. This page came as a direct result of direct request from one of our chiefs in Washington State. He needed to know how much police services was going to the homeless population. And now we can find every report that had anything to do with the homeless situation, from assault to disorderly to vagrancy. And here's our newest one, use of force. We track not only the force used by officers, but we track the force used by suspects or people against the officers. So you get a clear picture of what kind of work environment your police department is functioning in. The officer tab is strictly for tracking officer productivity. We don't set goals, but we see where the work is being done and who is doing the work. And so we can look at a particular squad, the day shift, and we can see their total workload. Sometimes they're very balanced. Other times you have 2 or 3 officers doing 70% of the work. There it lists them from top to bottom, like I mentioned earlier. It's a tremendous tool for the managers and the executives to know where the work is being done, who's doing the work, and how that work is being accomplished. So we can go through and make that comparison and that list for accidents, arrests, citations, incidents, and warnings. That's a quick overview of how the dashboard is used. It's been deployed in almost 600 agencies across the country. Arizona is one of our most favorite states. Some of the best users of our software reside in the state of Arizona. And it's a complete system for a mid-sized agency, so that without a specific crime analysis position, it allows the managers and the executives to have access to the data they need to prepare good budgets, to make strategic assignments, and to literally play a hand and influence the quality of life and the livability of your community. We're very proud of this software, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks. Council, do we have any questions? Councilmember Wilden?
Actually, I've got three questions. The first one was how far back and how far forward does this go to track? Does that make sense?
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council Member Wilden. I believe it goes back.
Mr. Carter, any questions from the governing body?
I believe it goes back up to a year. In terms of going forward, this is only data that is reported to our police department at the present time. So if an accident comes in today, for example, that would be captured, but nothing forward thinking that hasn't occurred yet, that hasn't been reported. So again, this data is just what's reported to our police department that we currently have.
Sure, but this is to say infinity, but this can go on to track it. Once you started, it can go on for infinity?
That's a question I would turn over to Mr. Duncan, if you heard Councilmember Wilden's question.
Mr. Duncan, can you hear us?
We can hear you now, sir. Were there any questions from the council?
Yes, Mr. Duncan, if you can hear me, I think the first question was, how far back does the data go? So how far back can we pull reports from this set of software suites?
You can pull it in 30-day increments, and Chief Hendricks, how far back can they go? So you compare 30, 60, 90, 120-day period. So you probably go back 6 months if you choose to do so.
6 months. And then the other question is, how far forward can these reports go?
Well, it's current data, so you compare a window of either 7 days or 14 days or 21 days. So you're pulling current data and comparing it to time in the past. So 2 7-day windows or 2 30-day windows or 2 60 or 90-day windows.
So I think what he's saying is it doesn't project the future.
Well, I understand that. It's just that how far can you keep track? Can you keep track these figures for 5 years, 10 years, whatever?
Yes. So our existing RMS system, our records management system, my apologies, would track that for the duration that we have the data. So I believe we transitioned in the early 2000s to this current records management system. So presumably we could go back that far.
2 more questions.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just clarify, we'll follow also our Arizona records retention laws. And so as long as we have to keep it, it'll be retrievable for public records requests and otherwise required by statute.
Who has access? You mentioned just the police officers. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. It's our record staff, it's our police officers, it is anyone that currently has CJIS access to access our records management system.
And they do not share that with, if I call and say, JQ Public, I want to know what's happened on this street, whatever. Is that private?
That's not private. We have very broad public records laws. So one of the suites that we will have access to is an outward-facing community dashboard, which essentially would give members of the public the ability to look at where certain crimes are occurring. But certainly we could pull statistical data from this set of suites as well. We typically get questions on occasion from people that are looking to move into the city about certain crime trends or things that are happening within our community. So
This came up before in discussion. Let's say I'm a drug dealer and I want to go to an area that I know I'm going to have buyers, sellers, whatever. That could be a negative in my book.
absolutely. And I think with this suite, it would determine not necessarily those cases that are generated by our narcotics task force, but certainly within our police department, those officers that are working routine patrol, it would be listed as a drug offense and general vicinity. So similar to what we released to the media, it would be 100 blocks of certain streets, so a general location.
The last question is, does this require more data input from anybody?
No, it does not. Again, this is existing data that is currently in our records management system. This set of suites is just a more user-friendly way to extrapolate that data and put it into meaningful information that we can better allocate resources.
Councilmember Henry?
No, that was a very similar question I had. So we're already coding, like when we had the presentation on the number of calls involving homeless, we're already coding them. So then, depending on how our officers are entering the incidents, would basically drive whether it's coded as responding to homeless or some other type of item.
Correct. Mayor Alinsky, Vice Mayor Holst, Councilmember Henry, you're exactly right. Mr. Carter and I had a pretty lengthy conversation with one of the A.R.S reps this past weekend, and basically she expressed your exact sentiments that it is really about the data that you input and making sure that our officers and other members of the department that input this data are coding it correctly. And so that's one of the things we're really going to have to drill down to if the motion is approved, is to make sure that we are putting in accurate data to capture what we want to capture.
Okay, please.
So I heard something about 30, 60, 90 days. So is that time increments? Is that as far back as you can go?
Mayor Alinsky, Councilmember Holst, Councilmember Matthews, they can go back at least up to the previous 60 or 6 months. But I think ideally a lot of agencies are doing 30-day increments. For example, the Arizona Department of Public Safety, they go back the previous 30 days to find out what crimes are occurring and how to better address those resources. But you can certainly compare them up to the previous 6 months.
Okay, it just seems like this is a good tool and would be even more useful if you could go back in a year, 2 years, 3 years and determine those trends. I don't.
You can go back.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see that I'm losing some value here. If like they mentioned the 6 intersections that have the most accidents in town, you're only looking for the last 30 days.
And to clarify, that's one way that you could run the data, but you could certainly go back further. I think I think for us, it would be more important to determine what works best for us here in the city of Cottonwood. But certainly that data would be accessible, and that's, I think, the biggest benefit that we would be looking for is a way to extrapolate that data and look at what those trends are showing.
So just to be clear, I don't mean to interrupt here, but to be clear, if we start using this January 1 of 22, future sergeants, commanders can access the data in 25 and compare trends, in 28 and 30 and compare trends if we continue using this software. I mean, once we start entering the data, we'll have all of that data accessible to us to monitor trends, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I can clarify, and Commander, correct me if I'm wrong, we're currently entering the data and have been since the early 2000s into the Spillman suite of data of our programming. So the data is there. So we'll be able to get the data for as long as we keep it and for as long as we need it. One of the things we're talking about for the reporting, I'm looking at the Sedona's public interface, and you get to choose the intervals to allow the public, and it only goes back 180 days. So they'll be able to set up the parameters for the public interface. They'll be able to run reports as needed for whatever purpose, either public records, administration, decision-making, and I guarantee you the chief and team will be using it to do their annual report. So the data's there, and how they get it, they'll be able to use this tool. But once the data's in, it's in there for as long as it needs to be in there and required by law. Is that fair, Commander?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So I agree with that sentiment. When I did do, following the meeting where we discussed this, some additional digging around just on the internet, and it doesn't look, I didn't see the year-to-year information, and I think that's an important tool. So just making sure, extra confirming that we can do that.
Okay. Any other questions, Council?
Too, special events that you have and festivals. So you can set up, if you have a Christmas parade each year, you can set up the previous year to compare, so you can see what events may have happened during the special event, so you can focus on those particular areas if that's important.
Mr. Duncan, he wasn't confirmed. We can't set that.
All right, very good. Well, Mr. Duncan and Mr. Chief Hendricks, thank you so much for being here this evening. And Council, is there any other discussion on this?
I didn't have any questions, but I did want to thank both our IT Director, Carter, and then our Commander Braxton for getting additional information and arranging to have the folks or two representatives from Motorola Spillman available tonight to answer questions. This was helpful for me. I did do some additional, like I said, digging online, and it does appear as though the programs, all three dashboards, do have appropriate controls that can be used. A lot of it does require, of course, good management of those controls, which I have faith that our department will do. And so I just wanted to appreciate the extra time and work that staff put in. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
All right. I believe if there's no other questions, we're ready for a motion.
Make a motion. I move to waive the city's procurement policy and authorize the purchase of Compstat, officer productivity, and community dashboard modules on a sole source basis for the Spillman Public Safety application in the amount of $57,110.49.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Currat seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Currat?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hulse?
Yes.
Mayor Alinsky?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. And next is the monthly financial report for August 2021. Council, do we have any questions? No? Okay, very good. Keep up the good work. Consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence. So we have just two items. First up is consideration of lease renewal for Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce for use of the city-owned Visitor Center building in Old Town. Item 2, resolution number 3116, appointing Kyle Peltz, a member of the city's Board of Adjustment. Is there an item that a council member or citizen would like to have pulled? All right, I'll motion then to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Henry seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. It's approved. And let's have our clerk please read resolution number 3116 by title only.
Resolution number 3116, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, appointing Kyle Peltz, a member of the Board of Adjustment, and establishing his term of office. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And next is new business, just one item. Following item is for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. Rough cut, New City Hall, property acquisition, declaration of covenants and restrictions, and reservation of easements.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. This should be the last item of approval for Council before we close escrow on 635 North Main Street, the parcel it sits on, and the vacant parcel immediately adjacent to the west. I think we made reference to this earlier when we entered into the purchase and sale agreement, that this was an associated agreement that would provide for exchange of easements and other rights between the parties, because the project, the Riverfront Commons property, was developed as a single commercial park. I don't want to say shopping center, because the Rough Cut building was going to be a health club, but it was going to be a commercial project, and it was designed to share property, including parking. So this declaration provides an exchange of easements, property rights. It abandons certain easements that were underlying the property. It creates new ones. It brings title current. We will be getting not only shared access to parking with the parcels that are being retained, and I don't think they'll be retained by the seller forever, but they're being retained in that we're not acquiring them. But we'll also be getting a temporary construction easement and a permanent pedestrian access easement, so that should council in the future decide to create pedestrian access directly through one of the retained parcels over the Cottonwood ditch to Riverfront Park and the amenities and the parking there, we'll have the right to do that. We're also giving the back parcel access rights, because it would otherwise be landlocked essentially. We'll be giving it utilities easements and access easements, and we're also providing for the shared use of the monument sign that fronts Main Street. There may come a time when the city wants to sign City Hall separately, and we'll be able to do that. But for the purposes of the current sign, the back property will have access to part of the current monument sign. At the same time as we're getting this done, we're still aiming to close and acquire the property by the end of the month. We're finishing title review and due diligence. It's been recommended, even though the seller, when it acquired the property from Verde Valley Medical Center, it did environmental due diligence, that we have no ability to rely on their due diligence, so we're commissioning an environmental study, which will be done in 2 weeks, we're told. And again, we plan on closing escrow by the end of the month. And at the same time, we're planning on issuing an RFQ for a design professional who'll come in, help us update our needs assessment, work with staff, and then begin working on a design for, once the core and shell are finished, then doing the build out and the tenant improvements. And I don't know if I missed anything or Ron wants to supplement, but that's all I have.
Okay. Council, any discussion? No? Okay.
No motion?
Sure.
I move to approve the proposed declarations of covenants and restrictions and grant of easements for the Riverfront Commons property, and authorize the city attorney and/or the city manager to consent to additional clarifying changes consistent with the purpose of the declaration prior to execution.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Matthews made the motion. Councilmember Wilden seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Henry,
No.
Councilmember Curot,
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Councilmember Naren,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Halse,
Yes.
Mayor Alinsky.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next is claims and adjustments, and I'd motion to pay the claims.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Vice Mayor seconded. All in favor? Aye. All right, and then we have our annual review of the city manager, executive session pursuant to A.R.S. 38-431.03A1. The council may vote to convene an executive session to conduct its annual performance evaluation of the city manager and consider contract amendments subject to the city manager's right to compel the council to discuss this matter in open meeting, which I don't believe you intend to do.
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not.
Okay, then I would motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Matthews seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.